Hi, this is Augie DeBleek from LearnCSP.com, and I'm here today with a quick tutorial on the Fill tool. We're going to show you something called the Close Gap option on your Fill tool. This will help you when it comes time to color in your art. This tutorial is based on a blog post I recently wrote for SmithMicro.com, our friends who actually are the ones who distribute Clip Studio Paint here in North America. First, let me just lay out what the problem is. I'm on my inks layer here. I have my natural brush pen in this case, and I'm just going to draw a shape that has a little bit of a gap at the end. I don't complete the rectangle perfectly. So now if we go to our color layer and then we pick a color, we go into our Fill tool and we click in the middle of this to fill it, we're going to fill the whole screen because that color sort of leaks out of the box you were hoping to contain it in. The quick and dirty solution to this is to take your pen tool, use the color that you're going to fill in with, and just draw that line yourself. Then you can take the Fill tool again and fill it in and everything looks hunky-dory. It's not really perfectly hunky-dory though. If you zoom in just a little bit, that line that you drew across the way, depending on what your settings are, depending on what the tool is, will leave a little bit of an outline there, which you can't see in most cases, but again, depending on settings, might be more pronounced. So we want a better way of doing this than using that. So let's just remove that fill, remove that line, and I'll show you the better way. Go back to the Fill tool, it's the G button on your keyboard by default, and go over here to the tool properties. Follow adjacent pixel has to be turned on for this to work. I think it is by default, so don't worry about that. Just go to Close Gap over here and check off that button. The indicator goes up to 5 boxes, so from left to right, it goes from closing the smallest gap to closing the biggest gap. By default, this starts at 1 pixel and goes all the way up to 20. You can change these settings, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute or two. You can change them to go anywhere from 0.1 pixel all the way up to 50 pixels. Right now we're going from 1 to 20. So right now you can see in this gap here, if you look at the little indicator up on the ruler, this gap is going to be more than 1 or 2 pixels. So let me just show you first. If we keep it on, we'll even go up to this pixel here, which is 3 pixels, and try to fill this in. It doesn't work. Still not working. We have to go bigger. And in the case of using the Close Gap tool or option on the tool property, you're probably better off going bigger than smaller anyway. So I'm going to go all the way to the end, go straight to the 20 pixel for Close Gap, and there you go. It works just perfectly. If you want to change those settings for the way you happen to draw in particular, the indicator settings over here by control clicking or right clicking, depending on your platform, will show you the different options you can use. Now, Clip Studio Paint is smart enough to know these have to be growing as you go, so if you make this into, say, a 4 pixel gap, that'll automatically change this 3 to be larger or equal, so it starts at 4, then control it to 5, change that to 5, etc., etc. But for now, we're just going to keep it the way it was. We'll just cancel that out. You have that option. You also have the option of showing it as a slider instead of indicator. A slider will give you this little option to go all the way down again from 1/10 of a pixel to 50 pixels and everything in between. In the case of Close Gap, I prefer to keep the indicator because I don't need to work with such fine-grained control. I don't need to know that I'm closing a gap of exactly 2.3 pixels. Maybe if I was doing some sort of architectural rendering, that would make sense, but for the kind of cartooning I do, it doesn't make much sense at all. So I like to stick with, over here, the indicator. Sometimes I'll change these numbers around. I like to keep this actually probably all the way up at 50. And I mean, the difference between 1, 3, and 5 is so minute. If I were changing this right now to go with my style, I'd probably make that 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, something like that. But again, depending on your style, depending on your resolution, what size you're working at, all those things, that'll change how big a gap you may want to close. And you're just going to have to learn that by playing with this feature and finding out what it can possibly do. So that is the Close Gap option, the property on the Fill tool, and hopefully that'll help you color your art on Clip Studio Paint a little bit faster here in the future. Again, go check out smithmicro.com. I'll have a link in the show notes below and on screen. You can see the whole written tutorial there. Took lots of screenshots and everything. It'll be great. And of course, join us over at LearnCSP.com for more of these tips, tutorials, and things that'll just make you a little bit better at drawing on your computer. I'm Augie DeBleek. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.